gameplay footage, but today we're actually going to be playing through the real game. So you can see here already, we're chilling into Z, we're going to be playing the Geomancer. And I think this is sort of like very early on in the experience for you guys. So, Rikoso, why don't you sort of set this up? Where are we in the actual campaign of the game right now?
Yeah, so you have the tutorial, and then you kind of get guided directly into a story mission to kind of tee you up. And then you end up here in Briarthorn Glade in the plain of Zendikar. And so you're in the region of Tazim in Zendikar. And you've kind of, that area that Jared was just in was the kind of social area where you'll see other people, hang out. You may have seen a little tailor icon where you could, customize your appearance. And now he is in the overworld. So he is running around, and you'll have quests to guide you to kind of meet some of the inhabitants, to kind of solve some of their problems. And then you might come across skirmishes throughout this area, which are kind of randomly spawning of variable difficulty and scope for some pretty cool rewards. As you work your way towards, unlocking your next instance piece of content, you can queue up with people or play on your own. And so that's what kind of Jared's doing now. He's kind of enjoying the Tazim overworld, this neighborhood of the Tazim overworld, as he makes his way towards his next quest to kind of progress through this plane.
Yeah. And just while Rikoso was talking for like that 1 minute, a whole bunch of crazy stuff just happened. So we actually found a random event that spawned on top of us. And here's another one too. All right. Okay. So yeah, we're in the overworld right now, and you can sort of see on the UI how there's a gold diamond, and it's pointing us towards our objective. So that's our main story objective. But there's stuff everywhere that's happening around us that we can go and explore. I actually picked up a waypoint there a minute ago, so chat, be sure to remember about that. And I see a lot of questions about movement, and so I think actually while we're sort of moving through the overworld, we can chat real quick about movement. So right now I'm using an Xbox One controller, and this just like feels really natural to me, especially on stream. But there are other kind of movement options, right, Rikoso? You want to chat about those real quick while I blow these guys up?
So, of course, you can plug a controller into your PC if you want to use that. It's fully supported. You can also use click to move, which is a very popular control mode for ARPGs. And we also have WASD controls for those people that kind of play in that way or coming from an MMO background. You can play with the classic WASD controls. And I don't know if you noticed, when Jared went through and touched his keyboard, the HUD changed just dynamically. Didn't have to do anything. So if you touch the button as a controller, it'll bounce back and show off kind of the controller layout. And you can also see he only has 2 spell slots unlocked, right? So for people that are aware or aren't aware, you collect a deck of 12 spells, and you customize that deck up to 2 colors. And 4 of those spells are randomly assigned to your hand, and as you cast them, they'll kind of cycle in and out, kind of like a game of Magic. But right now, we're in this tutorialization, so right now you only have 2 random slots. So as you progress through the game, and it's not terribly long, but as you progress through, you go from 2 to 3 to 4 slots, so that we can really get deep into knowing your spells and understanding the game.
Yep. Awesome. So let's go ahead and hop into an ordeal. So you can see on this screen, this is sort of like our dungeons. Rikoso, do you want to just kind of preface this real quick while we queue up for it?
Absolutely. So an ordeal is all of our content can be played by 1 player up to 3 players. Ordeals are kind of planned to be something that you should play with a group, even though you can play by yourself. And our story content is something that you could play with a group, but it's also designed to work well as a solo content. So Jared could probably jump in here and play by himself. And the cool thing about our deals is they have variable rewards, so they're scored. Most of them have a little scoreboard at the top, a little final score, and then you will get rewards that improve based on your score.
Excellent. And so, as always, thank you guys for understanding this is a pre-alpha build, so remember that as we're going through here. This is not going to be totally polished. Actually, I think they made this build just for us. So this is not even what you're going to be potentially playing if you get an closed alpha code. This is definitely not where you're going to be playing when we get to open beta. But you know, we just really want to show all of this content, and so even though it's early, we appreciate you guys sort of understanding that there will very likely be some bugs and some issues and some performance things, and that's to be expected. But we're just excited to be able to show this off today. And you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, we have a pre-alpha version listed right there.
Yeah. So this is kind of a neat map. It's somewhat like a King of the Hill scenario. So there are a variety of these little locations, similar to what Jared's in right now, and each of these areas give the enemies a different buff. And you have a set amount of time in each area to kill as many enemies as possible to increase your score. And then after that time, the location will randomly shift, and it'll jump to a new spot. And so over the course of this 10-minute ordeal, you're running through here, taking out as many enemies as possible, and trying to boost that score. So you can see when the enemy dies, they kind of like launch that little flare that indicates, oh, I got a score, I got a score. So it's kind of a cool map. And it can get pretty hectic with 3 players, so you can definitely juice that score to play with. Something you might be seeing on the right side of your screen there, we announced an equipment system. And while we're not going to get into details now, we're going to save those for a little bit later. You are seeing those loot drops with cosmetics dropping right there on the side.
A little bit of a teaser for a future stream. I'm sure we will be doing many more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So you're looking at a lot of the Tazim, we call them the Tazim. You're seeing spiders, you're seeing Felidars. You're going to see, probably at one point, you're going to see a growth organ. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on here. Kind of changes the type of enemies that you're fighting, changes the way you want to play. So in here, you're trying to kill as many enemies as possible. So you're going to have Saproings, and a Saproling counts for just as much as a Felidar, but a Felidar can take longer to kill. So you're kind of balancing, like, oh, I got to make sure these big guys are getting taken out, while simultaneously boosting my score as much as possible in the limited time that I have in there. You can also see we've got some elves in there as part of this that are from a different tribe that are causing some problems that we'll kind of learn about throughout the experience. We've got a Balon, who I have to say is amazing once you get it in your deck.
Yeah, he's a super big boy.
Super big boy, big old chunker. And he's got a great edge of the battlefield effect. Kind of 2-stage target, place him wherever. He smashes a bunch of bad guys, and then he's out there, he's doing great damage. And he's a great target for things like Wild Growth or Mighty Bellow that just make that 6/6 even bigger. And you can tie that in with different things like fight mechanics, or use it as a tank and bring in a bunch of other range creatures. So he's pulling a lot of aggro, holding a lot of enemies, while your range guys are just kind of picking people off. So you have a lot of really cool options when crafting the creature layout of your deck.
Awesome. And so I think we want to talk a little bit about actually the basics of the combat, assuming that this is the first time probably a lot of people are seeing this actual full form combat experience. But actually, right quick, shout outs to Cryptic Yavier in chat. She's the new community manager over there at Cryptic. I'm sure you will be seeing a lot more of her soon. We're going to try to get her on some streams. She's been chatting with you guys in Twitch chat already. She's introduced herself on, I think, Discord and definitely Reddit. Really cool gal, and say hi if you haven't already. She'll be answering some of your questions while I'm dealing with all this crazy hectic stuff that's happening on here. So yeah, Rakosa.
Right before we get into combat, we're looking at a Growth Warden, and you can see it's got that kind of yellow glow on it. That's because it is affixed. It has special buffs on it that it doesn't normally have. But that is an elite boss, so it has a lot of cool things going on. I don't know if you noticed, but anytime a Saproling went near it, it got a 1/1 buff and became more aggressive. So a lot of cool synergies that are going on with the enemies that can happen randomly throughout any mission.
Excellent.
But we were going to talk about some combat. So
yeah, I just kind of want to talk about how the class is different, because we know that the spells are shared between all the different classes, and I've been using a lot of the class abilities. So can you detail that for us a little bit?
Absolutely. So we're launching with 5 classes, 1 for each color. We're currently looking at our launch red class, which is the Geomancer, and each class comes with a variety of abilities. So since you're using a controller, I'll just use a controller. Your right trigger is your primary attack. So for the Geomancer, it's punching. But for the Sanctifier, it's using a staff. So our Geomancer is a melee class. The Sanctifier is our range class. And then we talked about the Mind Mage before. The Mind Mage is a mid-range class. So that's what your right trigger, your primary ability is. Your right bumper is your secondary ability. And your secondary ability is something that really, in some ways, we think defines your class. So for the Geomancer, it's a huge AoE explosion, which is awesome. But for the Beast Caller, who uses an axe, she throws it in a long line and damages enemies in a huge line and tags them in a really cool way. So that's a pretty exciting ability. And then you have your utility ability. And on some classes it's movement, some classes it ties into how you play. So the Geomancer here has Furious Leap. You have your bumper, you will do a leap, and you will explode when you land after that leap. Because you're a Geomancer, you're red, so why wouldn't you explode with lava and rock? However, the Sanctifier's utility ability does not involve movement, but you kind of kneel down and become immune to damage, and you heal your allies. And in fact, when you level that ability up, you also will res your most powerful creature that died in the last 15 seconds. So that is a really cool kind of gamut of abilities that informs how you want to play your deck, right? So you want to build a deck and try to have synergy with your class at the same time. So you might have this red Geomancer who does a lot of damage on her own. You might want to give her a bunch of sorceries in your deck, and maybe a few creatures to pull aggro off. Whereas you might want to be far more creature focused with your Sanctifier or your Beast Caller, because she's green and because her focus is on creatures. Her creatures will have more health and do more damage if you're playing that class. So each class has a different reason to play them, and different synergies with the decks that you're building.
Excellent. So I see some people who are very observant in chat noticing that we leveled up, and now we have an extra bar above our health bar. Actually, have we talked about the UI even? Health, mana, spells.
We haven't really talked about it too much. So the blue bar, we'll talk about in just a moment. That's called your spark meter. The green bar is your health. And if you look to the left, there's like this little white bar that's filling over it. The Geomancer actually, because she's a melee class, builds up temporary health, right? Kind of like rock armor as she's fighting. So it makes her a little more survivable because she has to get close. And then the bottom bar is your mana bar. And right now, Jared's playing a mono red deck, so the bar is red. But if Jared was playing, let's say, a Boros deck, a red-white deck, which is one of my favorites in the card game and in our game, you'll have it split between red and white. And it is a predetermined mana split based on the number of spells and how expensive mana-wise the spells are that you put in your deck. So if you have a very small number of white spells and a large number of red spells, you'll see like a 70-30 split of your mana down there, and it will generate at the same rate. But the spark meter that just popped up when you level. So before you hit level 6, your spark meter, when you pull that left trigger, gives you a boost of mana for I think 5 seconds, and draws a spell directly into your hand. If you can see, he's got some that are kind of missing as he's casting them. Force a spell trap. And so you can see it eats about a quarter of your bar, but you get that huge mana boost during that time. So you really want to get a bunch of spells out. And so he can do that back to back. Once you reach level 6, you unlock your spark power. And your spark power is unique, somewhat overpowered ability that is for every single class. So for the Geomancer, once you hit level 6, controller, you pull both triggers at the same time, and you will turn into a giant, like, lava rock monster. Your primary ability is this huge punch that has a bunch of knockback. Your right bumper becomes this huge AoE that pulls a bunch of guys towards you, and then you'll do this big rock spike damage. And then your left movement ability becomes a roll. So you get this great play off of, do I want to surge my mana and do more damage with my spells? Or do I want to